Um, every week is different. Every week is. Wait a second. What are we? Yeah, we're live. Yeah. It just took a second. Yeah, we're live on YouTube. Every week is different. Leaves us with a little bit different taste in our mouth of what life is. It's just good. It's good. It's good that it's not the same flavor every week. So hopefully everyone's coming back here with some kind of new desire and we're ready to talk about a little bit about life and figure out maybe just why. Um, let's see. Oops, sorry. Messed up a little thing there. Um, so welcome everyone to the Great Transition. I wanted to ask, what have you ever heard of the expression "just along for the ride"? As in, as in, I'm not the one driving. Uh, I thought about that the other day. Leo, I don't know if anyone else was watching Seth and Leo last night, last week, but I was very inspired. I liked it, and it got me thinking that that's the expression that kind of like brought me to Kabbalah. I can understand why my body, wanted to keep itself alive. Like, why do all these complex systems are working together? Like, for what? And I don't know. You would see National Geographic, and they would say, it's in order to reproduce, to progress the bloodline. But it didn't make sense because we have such desires that kind of make us reject those ideas. I didn't choose to be born. I didn't choose to be given these conditions that I was given. I didn't choose this body for sure. I didn't choose really any of the circumstances that I'm in. But here I am observing through this body some experience that we call life. But it really just feels like I'm along for the ride. That's kind of like how I felt after I saw you guys last week. So there had to be some reason, right? This is what I was thinking. There had to be some reason. It didn't make sense. Then Kabbalah comes and it says, you've got these more complex desires. You've got you're more complicated than a dog or a monkey, and you have these questions about existence, and you feel emptiness where the answer is exactly precisely for you to go down this adventure into that place and discover it for yourself, like you're watching like this movie unfold and frame like by frame, and all of a sudden no it's not what interests you. Like the movie itself isn't what interests you. It's more like questions like, okay, but why this movie, or why me, who's the director even. And at first you can see that these questions don't really interest me. This is like, but now they don't. Now they not only interest me. It's like I can see it like clearly, as clear as I can see my hand in front of my face. That these are not just philosophical questions, but these questions mark like a certain location within you, like this real place that you can go and visit and experience a different kind of life there. You just need to keep, I don't know, this, to have to keep coming back to it more and more. You have to like clear that little path, to the door. So each time you can go and explore it a little more, because we know the more that you explore something, especially in your brain, when we learn about, how the connections in your brain work and how memorize things and how you remember things. It's all about those connections that you build and how often you use them. So the closer you bring that to you, then this illusion of life, this perception where those things aren't important to me, that existence where I'm questioning the meaning of life. Those things, sometimes they become less important to you, and you get sucked away around the world. But still, deep down inside of you, you realize that you're just wasting your time if you're engaging in anything else besides the questions about life. And so you're seeing like evolution, like firsthand. You're watching it evolution in action. You're seeing, I wanted this at first, and now I want this. You want something different. Why do I want something different than I did a moment before? And it's never exactly the same. Every time I come back to maybe something that seems similar, it's different. It's like an hour ago, I was an hour younger, but it's a small change, but it's still a change. So then you're talking about this I that's inside of me. That's what's changing, and not my body or the details of what's changing during my own evolution, this evolution of my eye, and what it's supposed to do with in regards to the rest of the system. That's that's what we're talking about. This is the initial, this is the final stage that nature is evolving for us, for this eye to finally go through these transformations. And it starts with those questions. And it's not just a question, it's just a place. You know, it's a place within you. It's like a location. Think about it like even geographically, it's a place that you can go and visit, and the world becomes different to you when you look at reality through that place. So if this is nature's goal, to bring us into to change this eye within each and every one of us, if that's nature's goal, then there's no reason for it to make any other action or to have any other intention other than bringing its child to its final form. And so this is why we need to be extra sensitive. This is what we're trying to do on this show. We're trying to increase our sensitivity a bit each time to what's happening to me, to us at every moment. And for sure, if it's crystallized, if it appeared before us, if it took shape and I experienced something, then I have to know that it's for that precise goal specifically. And that goal is ultimately to bring this conscious connection between this created being and its maker together. So that's what we're doing. Welcome. Hopefully we can explore that a little bit.
Welcome indeed. Welcome everybody. All right. You just got me inspired about something here. I'm getting feedback from coming back from you, Chris, I think.
Okay, let me mute. I don't know what.
Is it good now? 1 2 1 2. Yeah. Anyway, so while Chris was talking, I was I was thinking about how for many years, you know, whenever I would give like a Kabbalah introductory session here in Israel or online, so different audiences, you know, in different languages even, and different mentalities, people would ask a question like, what is the practice in Kabbalah? What do you, where is there meditation? Is there meditation in Kabbalah? Is it like, where is the thing that you do that makes you spiritual, right? And it's hard to answer because take that meditation kind of analogy. It's totally like Chris said, because there's no specific time of and practice, physical practice called meditation in Kabbalah. But the whole practice of Kabbalah turns your life into a meditative experience. You begin to, I really like how Chris put it, like visit that place, like go to a place from which you see the world through a different vantage point. That is kind of what's happening. I completely agree with that. And it's not just a place, but it's dynamically evolving. It's a dynamically evolving, like binoculars or something, that you gradually learn how to put them on over your life. So it's like you have, so it's not like you meditate. The concept of meditation is, and again, this is not to do this meditation or anything of that sort. It's just to show the difference, right? There's no, in Kabbalah, it's not like now you take an hour, you go into this other place. No, you're learning continuously and systematically how to see through your life events and emotions and feelings and everything that's happening to you, through that, to see a deeper reality. And that requires a continuous meditative practice, if you will. We call that intention in the wisdom of Kabbalah. But that is what's so different. It's like you have one glasses, you don't take them off, and these glasses show you a physical world through your five senses with other people and things that they do, and they annoy you or you like them, good things, bad things, the weather, the news, your neighbors, your dog, whatever. And then without taking these glasses off, not secluding yourself in some place and memorizing a mantra or closing your eyes and seeing, No, but through that experience of one layer of reality, you begin to put together another layer, another a lens over these glasses that shows you a deeper picture that's happening without canceling what is happening on the outside in the material world, the ordinary perception. And that's a very unique thing to Kabbalah. I don't know if I expressed it well enough, but yeah, anyway, that's
We all feel. First of all, do you
what
hear
I
me
thought about.
echoing again? Do you hear me
Yeah, I
echo?
hear
I
you
don't know.
well.
How do you hear me
Oh,
well?
but when your mic is open, we're getting some feedback. You should look into what's happening there. Um, I mean, if your mic's open and I'm talking, we're getting feedback through your mic. Through yeah. So
Okay.
try to speak. I'll just mute. Let's see what happens.
No, but that's weird.
Maybe it works. Just give it a try.
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me? One, two. How is this?
1 2 1 2.
One, two, one, two.
Okay, maybe it works. Maybe it's gone. Okay.
Okay. No, I was saying that I think everyone, I'm sure Seth is also thinking about, the way that he experiences that feeling of what does it mean to like go to like a place. You said putting on binoculars. Anyone who studies Kabbalah has like that. They feel it differently. How it is that they get to the thing that Kabbalah is talking about. How do they do it practically? Like everyone's wondering.
I find myself usually in two places uh, as a student of the wisdom of Kabbalah. On the one hand, I kind of always hold, well, as much as I can remember, this huge, huge
Can you
goal.
go a little louder, man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I have this huge, huge goal, beyond time, space, and motion, the kind of the secrets of the book of Zohar, the the pyramids, Atlantis, UFO, like everything. I just want to know like every secret of everything. And on the other hand, as we do this practice through life, you're at work or you're in the kitchen or you're in the street or in the market, but you also have this, it just feels like you're a little bit different as a human, you're a normal human being in line with everybody else. But there's also this thing of you kind of like see that, like the matrix, you kind of see, oh, I see how everyone's operated. I see the desires operating everyone, which is kind of far from I feel all of reality beyond time, space, and motion, and I can tell you how the pyramids were built and what's going on with Atlantis and how what's up with the UFOs and other civilizations and things. Um, I, I imagine that as we continue to go, that it just kind of layer by layer by layer, what's in front of us becomes more clear, and also that faraway perception also becomes more clear too, because it's very childish at first what we think the final goal is. You ask a kid what his goal is, you can only imagine something that big. The more a person develops, the bigger goal they can have. But then there's also a weird sensation as well where you start to feel you don't feel that it's so tragic that things happen to the body. It's not like you're not just attached to the body only. If something, okay, this body after this life, you ever hear people be like, well, you only live once. I'm like, actually, you live like a few thousand times. It's like if I like, was doing it before and will continue to do it. So not so tragic to get everything done right away. We have a Congress coming up, this big event, this big global event where all of our friends get together. We have lessons together. We do new songs, and so we're working on a music video and a new song now. And so I'm staying up super late to get all these things done. Um, and I can transition now to like the Elon Musk situation. Like I have one business, I have a family, and like I'm trying to get one extra song done, and I run out of like time. I have to like cut out my sleep. Here you have a person who is like managing SpaceX. He's managing Tesla. Now he's going to take over. Like, think about your own life if you had to like your whole day was planned, but you need to like stop at the hardware store on the way home, and it kind of throws everything else off. Or
Yeah, but
like,
if you feel that you have to like your duty is to save the world, then hey, you'll make
no,
time.
but yeah, but I'm not so sure. Like, okay, so suppose you get 5 hours of sleep a night now, right? But your daughter needs, gets the sniffles, and you need to sit up with her, and so you got 4 hours of sleep, and actually you had to finish a song, or you had to do some emails or something, so you get 3 hours of sleep, but you only have 3 spare hours there, and you need to. So suppose you get 1 hour of rest a day. Suppose you're a great yogi, like Asaf talked about before. You don't need to sleep at all. It's still only 24 hours. It's how does a human being find the time? This guy's an interesting guy, by the way. Not talking
Yeah,
about Kabbalah, but just as a specimen of a human
right.
being, it's an interesting character, and this is an interesting situation. This kind of control of information.
Right, he found his way
Well,
into
how did we
something
just
new.
transition from that intro into Elon Musk just like that?
You just go with the flow and you just let it happen. What? It's off. You're like,
Why?
what
Let's
are
get
you?
into it.
What are
Let's
you
get
on
into
mute?
it. I remember that when we brought it up, we thought we had a lot of interesting connections to make here. But let's kind of first just put things on the table, right? So just to make sure we're all
Yeah, yeah.
talking about the same thing. So Musk now, where does it stand? Like, he offered to buy Twitter. He's definitely going to buy Twitter. He's definitely not. What's the status
We
right
don't.
now?
I know that there's a lot of details to like loopholes to how it needs to be done, and you'll probably hear of like the poison pill and all this stuff. Bottom line, he wants to take it private. Yeah, instead of a publicly owned shared,
Hmm.
shareholders, he wants to take it private.
And what's the why behind it?
The why? The why is because
Like,
he
from
thinks it's
his
better
perspective,
for
or at least what he
he.
says.
Hey, freedom of speech, journalism where that's not controlled by, I don't know, maybe not controlled by profit. He thinks it's better for humanity or the United States if humanity.
If he's on top of it,
If he's well,
that's.
hey, if you're gonna ask me, I'll vote. Take it.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Is he seen as right wing or left wing?
I don't know.
He's such an unusual character
Yeah,
because
unusual, and he's interesting.
Very,
Very, very, very
very
interesting
interesting.
personality. I give you that, sure.
Because, but
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 I
like
just want
he
to
has to have
say,
intentions
yep.
here, right?
No,
No,
but
say it.
I just want to say, there's something I find ironic about the whole thing. If the motive, or at least the 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 motive that he describes is to, in order to save free speech or something like that. That's why he wants to buy Twitter. He
Yeah, I
cares
mean,
a
I
lot
can't
about.
remember. I think that's what I remember reading. But okay,
Okay, so
say.
let's say he cares a lot about free speech, and I'm not doubting for a second. Let's put aside whether what he actually wants or not. Let's just say that he's well intentioned, and that's what he wants. He's willing to put $43 billion, I understand, into into that. Okay,
Right.
so the ironic thing I find about it is that there you have this super smart, super intelligent, creative entrepreneur who revolutionized several industries, not one. If you think about what he did from the very beginning, like
Right.
PayPal is
PayPal.
also, I
Yeah.
think, his invention,
Hmm.
and building a rocket that can come back and be reused, and
I just read a
Tesla,
lot of books.
and Neuralink. It's amazing if
Right.
you think about all of those, you know, uh, feats of technology and innovation, and being able to do that, not just being smart, but being able to be,
To
for
implement it.
lack of a better for lack of a
Right.
better word, yeah, ruthless enough to
Okay. Yeah.
make things happen. If you're not ruthless in this world, things will not happen. You will not have hundreds of people building a rocket for you.
Right.
So there's we can talk about what does it mean to be a good person and be well intentioned and all that, but he definitely has some fierce ruthlessness in
He's got
him
a
to
drive.
make
He's got
all
a.
that thing
He's
happen.
got a drive.
Like the
Yeah, for sure.
guy built a company that drilled a hole under LA, right? So I'm saying, okay, so you take all of that, and now I'm saying it's almost like he's saying, guys, come on. I'm gonna put humans on Mars in a bit. I'm gonna solve the traffic thing that you humans,
Which he didn't.
Earthlings,
That's a big
have
meme,
been
by the
dealing
way.
with.
But
I'm
yeah.
gonna solve it. I'm gonna solve it ultimately. Electric cars. Tesla
I'm the
was
best.
like
Take the blueprints. Take it. Take it.
yeah,
Take it.
and
Run
then
with it.
he
Right.
seems like he's almost like saying, okay, guys, so what's the problem now? Free speech. Musk will take care of
He
it.
wants his cape. Just
I'll
give him the cape
all right. All right,
and
what's it gonna take? $40 billion to buy Twitter and just put things in order. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
The problem,
And yeah,
the pro, no, finish the idea.
no, the irony of it is that if this is the attitude, then he's kind of approaching free speech, which is a completely different animal. It's not building a
it's not his
rocket and it's
bag.
not building an electric
Okay.
car. This is humans and their ego that you're talking about. And now the tech entrepreneur, brilliant genius, is
What do you mean,
saying,
humans in
okay,
their ego? What do you mean? It's humans in their ego.
well, it's a different thing.
Ah,
It's a
you mean
different
Twitter?
animal.
You
We're
mean
gonna have
Twitter?
to.
You mean Twitter?
I mean, yeah, free speech. I mean, free speech. That's why
okay.
we
That is
said
a
that's
human
why
thing.
he
Right.
wants to
Right.
do Twitter, right?
Right.
Because he wants to. So I'm just saying there's an irony built into the idea that a tech a business magnate, entrepreneur, whatever, can just tackle it with the same kind of entrepreneurial attitude. I just
Okay.
think that's ironic because
Okay.
it's like you're completely not understanding what you're dealing with. And that should take us to a discussion of what is free speech, does it even exist, and how do we even create a social media network, a social network that is constructive for free speech, or even just constructive for positive relationship between humans. There's a lot to discuss here. Anyway, Seth wanted to jump in there.
No, I was gonna go. I was gonna go a
ago.
different
Yeah.
direction. A free speech is interesting. Osho, who's a yogi guy. He's
Oh,
got
yeah.
like
Is he
a
still
nice,
alive though?
I don't know, but he's got like a nice long. He's one of the guys who was mired in one of those.
I think he was admired for many
No,
years
not
by some
admired. He
people,
was
but
admired, but
then
he was mired in
but then
he
mired
he drove like
in
Rolls
some
Royces and
controversy.
had
Right.
Rolex
Right.
watches and watches and was
Okay.
like sleeping with his devotees.
He was
But
good. He was
he
good at his
said
job. Yeah.
he was good at his job, but he did this like great thing where he goes, democracy is is for the people, by the people, but all the people are retarded. Like, so
Yeah.
free speech,
Yeah.
if you just open up. So right now you have people, for example, there's certain countries where if you're gay, you can get the death penalty. But the
Mm.
leaders of those countries can be on Twitter.
Right.
But
Right.
the
Yeah.
leader,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But the leader of but the president, the last president of the United States was taken off Twitter. So it's definitely not open to anyone. There's somebody who's deciding
Mhm.
what things are okay and what things are not okay.
And there's a bunch of examples of what you said.
Right.
There,
And that's what's
there's a
bothersome?
bunch of examples like that.
Well,
Clearly,
can you just give a
I don't
few just
remember. I remember I ran into a bunch of it was all about it was mostly when one side of the political spectrum is clearly being deplatformed or banned or limited in some way on Twitter, while things that have to do with civil rights, like the example you said, the ayatollahs, that have Twitter, the you have you have that sort of double standard. I don't know how to call that, but clearly there are people at the helm who are saying, okay, we should deplatform this guy and we
Well, because
shouldn't.
it affects
This
their
guy can,
wallet in the end,
yeah,
I'm
because
sure,
it somehow
somehow.
helps their politics or
Yeah.
helps their agenda in some other way.
Helps
Yeah.
So
them.
so
And
so
yeah.
so if there is such a thing as free speech, and does that mean that everybody just gets to say whatever they want? So
Mhm.
if Trump, for example, was put back on Twitter, it would just be an all-out hate attack. There would just people would just be spending all day fighting. Already, people just troll all over each other and argue in the comments. So if you put the very very extreme left and the very very extreme right together on a social media, people just would spew like, does free speech mean I'm free to just spew,
Insults.
just
Yeah.
insults at each other
Yeah.
all day long? What would imagine everything is free and anyone could say whatever they want? It's a great premise if everyone has
If everyone
education
agrees
and
on
knows
what,
how to,
yeah,
like,
agrees on what it
imagine
is.
like in a marriage, you have free speech. You just come home and be like, I'm tired of a headache, leave me alone. Like, how does that work? No, free speech doesn't just mean I can open my mouth and spew anything I want whenever I want, all over whomever I want, without any consequences. Basically, the crappy state of the world is kind of a result of people just spewing what they feel without the way to, without an educational component
Mhm.
inside it. Free speech is kind of worthless. Just because if people don't develop past the degree of being an animal and just wanting to fill their instant desires, um, it just leads to chaos and destruction.
You're just like, free speech is like, I want to be able to say whatever I want to say, and you can't tell me not to. I mean, that's like free reigns for the ego. Of course, why not? So, but everyone, not everyone agrees on what that on the definition. That's kind of the problem. And you said something weird too.
So are you in
What?
favor of censorship then? That's what, people will ask when they hear you saying something bad about free speech. That's the immediate knee-jerk reaction, right?
I'm in favor of a totally different approach. I'm in favor of uh, teaching people from at all different levels and stages of life how to get along with each other, how to listen to each other.
No, but they're enjoying it though. They enjoy I mean, think about it. When you go online, I mean, I'm not of this type, but I identify it and I can see how it happens. You're literally going to war. When you go out there and you like sign in to your Twitter, okay, like kind of imagine like, what am I signing on to Twitter to do? I'm gonna see some opinions that probably are different than mine, or especially on Facebook, or if it wants to set you up for that interaction. What kind of interaction? You're not gonna say, "Hey, I love this thing." Usually, you're gonna say, "Hey, I hate that thing," and that's what you want to go out there to do. There's like this mentality of like going to battle, going to war, going to disagree. People they enjoy that. So when you say educating them to connect well,
If you
there's like something else here that's really missing in between.
if you
Yeah.
want to get a laugh, just you're upset during the day and you want to laugh, go to Donald Trump Jr.'s son's Twitter account. Like everything he posts, there's like hundreds of hate comments underneath it. It's like, oh, it's so bad.
It isn't okay. So why is it so? This is the funny thing. The question we should really ask ourselves is a broader question: is what does it take to make social media and social networks, specifically such as Facebook, Twitter, and so on, where people interact about their views and opinions and politics and agenda and all that. What does it take to make that interaction we call Twitter or Facebook or social media? What does it take to make it healthy? What does it take to make it productive? What does it take to make it an experience that leaves you uh, a better person than you were before, or at least not more hateful, more angry, more anxious, more depressed,
But Chris brought
more
up a good point,
violent,
though.
or belligerent, let's say.
There's some kind of pleasure release, though, that happens through all those things that don't happen from just being nice. Like there
Okay.
is some pleasure released from getting angry.
Oh, sure. The whole Twitter thing, that the algorithms are built on that. It's built on the idea that how can we get these dopamine circuitries in your brain to quickly release some dopamine as quickly as possible? How
Yeah,
can we make it every time you click? How can we make it every time you scroll? That's what the algorithms are designed to do.
this is the
And
problem we have as Kabbalists.
mm,
That's the problem we
what
have.
is
Well, we're
as Kabbalists? What do you mean?
yeah, like for example, you are a father, and give your teenager, you say, that's it, I finished, I'm done with what I wanted to accomplish in my life, and you give your teenager some factory that produces $100 million a year, okay?
Okay.
But your teenager just wants to hang out. He wants to like sleep late, and to him it's just a total burden. Right.
Yeah.
If he like had got a little bit of maturity, he would realize he would have a lot of freedom in his life. He would have the means to do all the things that he wants. He'd be able to help all the people he loves. He'd be able to go anywhere he wants.
Wait. Just to make the connection. So you're saying, okay, make it. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm saying is the wisdom of Kabbalah is like, okay, so I want to give you everything. I want to give you the whole world. But a person at first, like, I get pleasure, right? Twitter is set up to hit all of my dopamine centers by through like hating and fighting back. The problem that the Kabbalist has is like, the promise is an amazing promise. The promise is this feeling eternity. But in order to get there, I need to like go through something, which means I need to kind of like detach from all of that hatred and detach from
It has to become worthwhile. Yeah.
Fighting back and all that. And the problem is I'm getting instant hits there. And what is going to compel me to make that move?
I would challenge that.
I'm happy you would.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea to ask that question. I think we can. I think that especially as things are getting more and more hateful on places like Twitter, as people are more and more realizing that there is something very toxic in using these platforms, people like Rogan famously saying that they're not looking at comments. His approach is like, he's a well-known podcaster, millions of followers. There's a lot at stake with everything he says. Whatever he says, he's going in and going out, and that's his interaction with social media. Not looking at the comments, not looking at trolling, whoever's trolling him or saying something about him, and so on.
Yeah, he gives that as advice too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm saying, and by the way, I don't think that's a bad advice. That's why I'm even repeating it here, because if a place is toxic, if an environment is toxic, your best bet is not to try to go and just try to stay away from it as much as you can. But I think that the more people understand the toxicity, the more we could begin to think about, envision a social network experience that hits different centers, different muscles in us, and you come away feeling more relaxed, more calm, more at peace with others, more open to others. I think that would look like people who are gradually developing some positivity other than negativity, openness to other people, openness to other opinions.
Fine, but that just
I think that's doable, and I think that's fun. To respond to what Seth was saying, this can hit your dopamine centers as well, but in a different way. It's true. We lost video, Seth. We got you back. It's true. Wait, let me just try to make that point. It's true that the way the algorithms on Facebook, YouTube too, and all those things, the way they're built right now is to get your attention as quickly as possible for the maximum amount of time possible. That's true. And on the way there, they're designed to hit your dopamine, to give you some pleasure from clicking from, but it doesn't mean that, but that pleasure is not even healthy for you. it's a pleasure that neurologically speaking, it looks like addiction. It's one of those things where you get a little bit and then you need more, and then it stops satisfying you, and then you need more of the same thing, and so on, and that leads
Well,
to
then you could
extremes.
say the same thing
Be-
about coffee. You could say the same thing about almost everything we do in our
It is the
life.
yeah, but
same.
it's not social. It's not social, and that's the big deal. That's the big difference.
What do you mean?
Coffee is
Yeah.
not social. You're not getting a direct hit of dopamine from something that relates to how you see other people, relate to other people, and
No,
make
but it's still the
yourself,
same mechanism that's working. It's still the same mechanism. It says, is it, where
yeah,
do I
but the
get pleasure?
result is different. But the result is different. Am I becoming, here's what I'm, and by the way, this is what I'm saying right now is something that, sociologists, and other scientists have been looking at this in a very serious way. Jonathan Haidt, I think, is a person you can read about that. Anyway, there is an addiction to polarization, to social polarization. There is such a thing that's happening due to social networks. There is an addiction to division. That's I'm connecting a few dots and making the formula simple. This equals that, but ultimately that's what's happening because we are social creatures. That's the biggest thing that these algorithms are exploiting about us. And the way it's built right now is that division ultimately it creates more attention, more use of of this addictive use of social media. When you see a video that gets you aggravated and angry, that doesn't necessarily make you feel good, but it makes you spend more time on it and writing a comment, an angry comment or something like that. So what
That's the
I'm
exact
saying
definition
is,
of the wrong kind of connection.
yeah, what I'm saying is I think it is possible to create a social interaction online that actually that gives people pleasure, but of a different kind.
That's different though. That's
And
not what we're
and
saying.
and
We're
I think
asking if Musk, that seems like such a jump. We're asking is
right.
this new trend of like taking something private, is that going to correct that issue or put us on the right kind of path?
No,
This is the
so
this is
hold
the
on.
big news.
So
It's huge.
let's just step aside for a second.
Okay.
With the way that with the kind of technology that he's developing or those companies are developing, and with the automated cars, and in order to do that, you need a lot of AI that understands, if I'm the automated car, some engineer's got to decide, like, if two children walk out into the street here and there's four children who walk out into the street here, like, what is the car going to decide to do? If it's got to make a decision. Like, there's so much AI that they need to figure out. Uh, from all of that AI, for sure, we're going to get to a point where we'll have. He said it also on some TED Talk thing recently that the AI will get so good that a person could have AI in their home, right? Like, to be able to make all kind of decisions about all kinds of things. So you have a company that's going to be able to produce products like self-driving cars, products like a robot that would be in your home that can put away your laundry, can do your dishes, can clean up after you, can maybe give you a hug if you don't have anyone there to give you a hug, entertain you, do everything, go do all your grocery shopping. The whole Twitter thing might just be, the same way Jeff Bezos owns Washington Post, it might just be like, it's a great advertising tool. It's just a great way for me to control the narrative. So, free speech is one way we can go down, but that's one conversation around this. But there may be like another thing that we're also talking about, the development of the human ego. We understand this guy is not he's not an altruist, right? He's building an empire. He's going to solve all of humanity's problems. So he
You could say the same
needs
thing
to
about
have,
Da Vinci. I mean,
well,
maybe it's hard to guess his intentions though, really, because it does seem like why would someone what
We
is
don't
he
need
has
to
this like
guess. We
long
don't. We don't
left.
need to guess. We don't need to guess. He's doing
Let's
whatever is
look
good
at
for
it.
him.
Well, that's no question. But let's assume that he has this future goal of putting humanity on Mars. What is he gonna really he can't really enjoy from that even in his lifetime. That's just like a goal that he feels like he needs to set. So if we kind of copy that same mentality, oh, I need to fix this. Like Asaf was joking about, I need to fix that, I needed to fix this, and I need to fix this. Here's a person now who sees a problem and thinks maybe I can solve that problem. That's all. That's kind of what we wanted to ask on the show. Elon Musk is going to take this thing. It's rotting. It's gross.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying you keep seeing the word toxic. Like, okay, we wouldn't drink toxic water. As soon as we know that it's harmful for our body, we stop drinking the toxic water.
No, it's not
Everyone
true. It's
kind
not
of
true.
knows.
It's not true.
What?
Everybody, most people, a lot of people still drink Coca-Cola. There's tons of drinks that are
Yeah.
flying off the shelf that are totally toxic. There's tons of foods that are totally toxic.
Yeah.
There's tons of
Right,
movies
but
that are
that's
totally
Yeah.
because
toxic.
toxicity usually comes with addiction. That's also why. Okay,
We
there's
stay
all
in
kinds of
toxic
examples.
relationships.
Yeah,
Our lives
exactly,
are loaded
exactly
with
the example I
toxicity.
wanted to say, but in a more
Okay.
blunt way. Yeah.
How would you say it?
No, I just wanted to say that that's why sometimes victims of even horrible things like domestic violence and things like that. That's why there's also this tendency of it's not hard to break out of that cycle. But anyway, that's a whole
It's
different.
not hard, or it is hard.
It's of course it's hard. It's
It is hard
yeah. That's
I thought you said
because
because
not hard.
because
there's
there's an
some
element
pleasure
of
to it,
addiction. There's an
or
element of
addiction.
addiction to it. Yes, but anyway, let's leave that to the psychologists. I
Okay.
think
Okay.
here's why I think it's very relevant to us what's happening with Musk and Twitter, and the question is very relevant for us uh, uh, as Kabbalah practitioners, because what we are dealing with is creating an environment where people can connect to each other based on nature's predetermined future state. That is something that can that can engender positive free speech, positive interaction, positive communication. But I'm saying the whole thing is ironic with Musk because this is not a technology problem. This is a spiritual problem. And Twitter, what we're gradually discovering through the toxicity is that Twitter shows us that it's not the technology that is the problem. It's not what the technology is making humans worse. Is that what's happening?
Right. Okay.
Sure, there are some elements of technology that you could say, hey, if you change that, things would be better. But what would make or break, what would make a social media network, what would make it positive and healthy for human connection as opposed to the other way around?
But that's not what he's thinking.
No,
That's not
of
what he's
course
thinking.
not. That's why I'm saying it's so funny, because you can't approach this. It's not a technology. It's a psychology, first of all. The Twitter is
Then
not.
it's impossible. Then it's impossible for any of these people to fix the problems.
That's right.
No.
That's right. They can probably alleviate it. I think I would probably vote for him if you ask me. Like
Because it alleviates it.
Because I think it might alleviate some of the issues, and it's interesting to see a change. But do I think anything actually spiritually productive will happen? No way, by no means, because for that you have to have an educational component, like you were saying, that you can't just what does it mean when you just let people run amok and do whatever they do? Just just put them in a sandbox and let them play. What will happen? Isn't that the experiment we were running
Lord
on
of the
this
Flies.
on this planet? Yeah, for in so many ways. It isn't that what happens is that we have a force within us, each and every one of us, that's stronger than ourselves, and that is our ego. And we're in our society, we're in modern Western societies, we don't just we're not ignorant about the ego. We praise the ego in many ways. And so what happens is that of course we have to define what is ego in a deeper way if we want to get into that. But to stay on a simple kind of picture here, right? There's either that force, the natural human ego that erupts between people,
Where I don't have to
or
try, I don't have to
there,
put an effort to reach that state. That's just what
and
happens,
that's
right?
just natural. Yes,
That's
it's
natural.
like gravity, like the wind, like like the like a plant does photosynthesis. There's no conscious effort in doing that. Our ego wants to be greater or better or have more than others. That's what we are as human beings. But we also have another capacity, another whole place that we can visit, like Chris started today's show with. And that place requires conscious focus, conscious efforts, that place where we begin to try to connect to each other and build something new from our differences, and not try to instinctively be more or have more than others, but try to be more or have more with others, become something bigger than what I am as an individual. That is something that we have as human beings, but we need to activate it. We need to train it. We need to work on it. We need to be conscious of it. That's where, how will you add that almost meditative element into a social media? There has to be an educational component. There has to be an agreement among the participants of that future social media, social network, right? That they're going in order to contribute to the sense of connection between everyone.
What would it look like if such a thing existed?
I think you would see disagreements, you would see different views. That's okay. That's
But
okay.
what would be
But
the benefit? What would be the
but
There has
you
to be
would feel
benefit.
like, sorry, say it again. I think that I can, this would require serious work, but just to play around with this, algorithms. So instead of algorithms creating echo chambers, for example, which means putting you next to content, serving you up content and people that strengthen your view because we know that you like that, as the right, the algorithm says, so to speak. So
Giving
we
you what
put
you
you in an
like.
echo chamber. So instead of that, you might be seeing you might have completely different algorithms that do the opposite, that put you in contact with other views than your own, that put you in contact with what's out there. So many of us don't even know the world, sociologically speaking. Most people, I think, I'm doing a crude generalization here, but I would say that I think most people today have no idea about the different kinds of people, cultures, mentalities, attitudes, perceptions of the world views that exist out there. We're very,
No
very
need to.
narrow-sighted. Yeah, because we we don't need to. That's another
Okay, yeah. Well,
interesting.
this can go in many different directions.
Yeah, but anyway,
Well,
so
so
that's just an example, right? Just as an example, algorithms, algorithms would work on um, learning you, studying you to see how to help you with things that you need
you'd
help
also
with,
need to
not
agree to
how to
that, though.
suck more time out of you. Sorry, go ahead. Say it, Chris. What were you
No,
saying?
you'd also need to agree to that process too. It's like that. You'd have to understand that it's toxic to be in the other, just so you would have the strength or the importance to be in this thing where you're okay. Give me something. Yes, algorithm. Give me something that would that would
that's the
grow me,
problem.
and then it's the
I don't
opposite of what
need
I want.
that's the problem. Watch people. Go into the city and like watch somebody order coffee and then watch what they do while they're waiting for their coffee. They immediately go to social media.
Yep.
Watch somebody on a train, like as soon as they're done giving the person the ticket, they immediately look down. So you're saying a person needs to do something or make a decision. There is no decision being made. That's the whole magic of these things. It's like it sucks you into it. So if there's gonna be something that's gonna do something good, it can't be like every time it feels like I'm making tons of effort to do it versus I get to go on Twitter or Instagram or something else that immediately just that hits my dopamine centers.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's no competition there, and we're not going to win if that's what we're
Right.
trying to do.
Yeah.
Now, there's a
Yeah.
few commandos who are willing to like do sit-ups while the waves are crashing on their head, and there's a few commandos in the world. The world is not interested in being commandos. The world is interested in just hit my dopamine centers.
It's a good question, man. It's a really good question. We're just, kind of thinking about the future here, right? There could be different scenarios, but I do think it's possible. I think it's very possible to create a social network that will have benefit built into the use of it. Using it will give you pleasure, but you're right in the sense that it probably will not be as addictive. See, but we think about addiction. You just described, essentially, you didn't intend to do that, but you were kind of describing addiction as a great thing. You were saying, hey, I'm standing in line. I got nothing to do. What I'm used to do is just like, I'll open this phone again.
I don't care what you call it. I don't care if you call it addiction, whatever. It doesn't matter if you call it addiction. It doesn't matter what you call it.
It does matter. It does.
Well, I'll tell you why it doesn't matter to me. Because I just want to feel good.
Right.
You're addicted
if I had
to feeling
another
good.
way to feel good,
yeah.
I'm addicted to feeling good. That I can agree with. If I had another way to feel good, right? Like I order my coffee, right? And then I start scrolling because I feel empty while I'm waiting for my coffee. Once I get my coffee, I don't feel empty. I drink my cappuccino. I'm feeling good. But instead of scrolling, for example, someone immediately comes and starts giving me a foot rub or a back massage. Okay, I just put my phone down. Like, that's great. That feels really good. As soon as they stop, now I'm waiting for my coffee again. Now give me something else. I have something in my hand that will give me pleasure. But, I can scroll and it starts to give me pleasure. So I'm not really concerned about addiction because I don't think people are addicted to this if there would be a better option.
I think there can be a better option. Right. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but the better option has to be more pleasure than this.
Yes,
it has to feel pleasure. Otherwise,
it might not have the addictive quality that this. Look, there's the kind of pleasure that people get from social networks, from social media. Is in many ways addictive in its nature. It's a pleasure that comes together with with toxins, so to speak. Not completely, not entirely.
I have a vision.
Depends on how you use it, but
I have a vision of a reality filled with love. I have a vision of this eternal fulfillment, this huge, incredible, compelling future. So when I am faced with some temporary problem in front of me, that goal is so big, and that goal is held up in the air by all of the people around me in my spiritual environment that also hold that up in the air. So I'm able to it's bigger. That pleasure from that is bigger than my temporary inconvenience. But I have that. I have a problem agreeing that this Twitter or whatever it is going to give me pleasure, but now I'm going to have to try something that's not going to be so great. It has to be greater, otherwise.
I think, yeah, 100%. And I think the only thing that you can, like, if you want to bring it down to understand it a little bit, it has to be something like a mother with a sick child who has no strength to wake up because she has a fever, but she has to treat her baby. It's not a thing like, oh, do I want to lay in bed? Of course you want to lay in bed, but there's something more important that you have to do. And you get up and end up doing it, and you actually do experience pleasure from that. Maybe you don't want to go down too deep into it, but there is a mechanism that allows you to do something against your desire. I mean, it's there, it's available for you to use. Now, the question is, how do we put that in front of us to make us do that thing that, hey, it's not worthwhile? How do I make it worthwhile for them?
That's a hard sell for people, to tell people to go against their desire. That's the thing I'm challenging you guys on.
I don't think that we will have to do that. I think there's a difference between, just like in every technology, there's a difference between the builders and the users, the scientists and the consumers, the engineers and the users again, right?
Okay.
I think that it will be a possibility for people to just go into that environment, a positive, spiritually oriented environment, and they will be fulfilled in a new way. It won't be hitting the same kind of immediate pleasure, but there will be immediate fulfillment from it. I think that's doable. I think
Okay, so
that's
you're
it's sort of
depicting,
like
you're
what
100%
happens.
right then. Yeah.
It's sort of, do you guys remember we have some stories of you guys remember like we have before COVID, we used to have every now and then there would be like some event, some Kabbalah event somewhere in the world, right? There was always this situation where we would hold an event, um, and typically these events, we rent a place in a hotel or in some other, we rent some place to have these events, right? And before COVID, when now everything's online, but we used to have these physical events, and that would many times put us in touch with some people who would work logistically or in the kitchen of that place where we would rent and maybe use their services for food or things like that. And many times people would just people who had nothing to do with Kabbalah and didn't understand at all what we were doing and what we were about. Many times it happened when people just kind of because they were serving that place, they would kind of be involved in a few minutes with us, in a few minutes of
The
some sort of
employees of the venue, you're saying.
yeah, and they would get immediately charged with something really positive, and they would say, "What's going on here? It all just feels great. It just feels good. It just feels
Right.
correct. It just feels," and they get that it's about connection. They get that there's a certain safety and wholeness and tranquility and calmness and
So if you
relief
give them a person, if you
that
give that person Twitter, then if you give that person Twitter,
so
then what
if
do
you
they
give a
do?
person Twitter, it's a different kind of pleasure. That's what I'm saying. I think the more we discover the toxicity of the current social media that we have, and the more we, like builders, people like us, need to work on these new environments. But I think that ultimately, when you think about change en masse, when you think about masses of people using something, then Seth's right. They're not going to be able to if Twitter was hard to catch on, if it was hard to get on to do the onboarding process to for millions of people, it wouldn't get a big thing, the
Right.
big thing that it is. But so I think there will be something like that, but it will hit a bit of a different, it will hit
That
a
makes it
different note.
It
the
actually
way that
doesn't
you're
matter. It doesn't matter where the pleasure comes from, actually. We don't care.
right.
Um, if
Well,
I'm a huge
it does, but I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
no, it doesn't. If I want if a huge I don't know, if my role model arrives at the airport, I happily carry their bag. I'd happily let them stay in my house. I'd happily make them a
Hmm.
coffee when they get here. I'd happily serve that person. I would get pleasure from serving my role model if my role model, or someone I think is great.
Okay.
So we would normally think, I want someone to make me a coffee. I want someone to carry my bag. I want someone to pick me at the airport. So
Hmm.
it doesn't. I'm actually agreeing with you about this point that
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter where the pleasure comes from. Uh, so person could easily put down Twitter if the pleasure was somewhere else.
So you're given a menu of pleasures, and if Twitter's not on the menu, okay, fine, I got these other things. That's what you're saying?
No, even if it is on there, it's just not like toys, right?
Ah,
There's
so the
some
human
toys
already
left
has
over
to
in
be
my
more
house.
developed a little bit. So what
There's
are we
some
waiting
toys
for?
left over in my house. I've got teenagers, right? They don't even look at those toys anymore. They used
Right.
to play with them for hours and hours. There's
Hmm.
just better pleasures available.
Yes. Yeah. I think there's something like that happening with social media, and therefore this step now where Musk, with who he is and the personality that he is and the perceived personality that he is, Let's just leave it at that. When um, um, when he now makes this offer, regardless of what happens with it, it's an interesting milestone in the
Right.
collective psychological development that we have about social media. If you think about it, 2008 or something like that, Facebook came out. Everyone was like, oh, this is great. You can keep in touch with your loved ones. You can do a reunion meeting easily with people from high school. You can, oh, this is so great. And now, like everyone knows that this is bad. This is that there's so much evil that happens, so to speak, evil
Right.
in that, so many problems, so much, the depression is depression and bullying and shaming and
Well, I mean, you look
violence
at the
and
numbers; they lost
and
billions of dollars over the
division
past
and
year. Yeah.
so I'm saying there is a reckoning process. There's a recognition of evil process of these tools that we use. But gradually, what will happen is that we're going to understand that it's not the tools that are the problem. It's us. It's how we decide that we're going to connect to each other. Are we going to build an environment where the purpose of it is to connect us? The goal of it is to derive a new source of pleasure from that connection, to learn how to enjoy and to create that sense of safety and calmness and peace and wholeness and connection, and also productive discussions and productive disagreements and constructive criticism, but learning how to do that as as people who understand they're living with each other. They have to coexist. And so that is, I think, a gradual awakening that is happening with regards to social media. And that's why the Musk thing is interesting. But I don't think that,
Mm.
that he can take it there, all the way there. But hey, like with Mars, he's maybe doing something that will, that's a milestone
Something's happening.
on the way
Milestone.
to that
That's a good
spiritual.
word.
Yeah, not to, I'm not in favor of downplaying the why not. I mean, this is a good thing. It's towards a good thing. It's
Yeah.
towards a good thing. I don't think that free speech will come from this, and that free speech even exists right now. Everything is paid for and bought and so on. You're not going to have, free speech from this. But it's a stage in our awakening towards, um, what is the right connection between us, in our in our collective understanding that we're going to have to build environments that are healthy and productive to our connection, and not the other way around. um, that's what I think.
I'd love to wake up in the morning and the first things I see on social media are telling me about all these incredible things that are happening, how life is getting better, how people are cooperating. There's everyone has what they need. Diseases are being healed, homes are
Yeah,
being built, people are being taken care of. There's going to be a concert in town tonight. Everyone's going to be dancing. They're going to have a barbecue out there. Anyone wants food, come and barbecue. There's going to be someone sitting around talking about life. You can sit around and talk about meaning of life. Be people playing some music before you go to bed at night. You open it up again. Some people talk
yeah.
about some great things that happened during the day today around the world, and how tomorrow these world leaders are all getting together to figure out how to solve these great
Sounds
problems.
very positive.
And we can use this internet that connects us above geography, above location, above time and space, to actually learn about each other, to actually get to know who are our fellow earthlings. It's an we're so not even close to using this amazing potential that exists in virtual
That
communication.
hive mind concept, right? Like I have a problem, and all of a sudden there's people who can help me solve my problem, and everyone, oh, I've got this rash, oh, I had that rash, do this, and everyone just fixing everything
Mhm.
for everyone, and everyone's cooperating.
It's
That would be
worthwhile.
amazing.
That's what we're saying. It's worthwhile to go check it out and see how the world could actually be if we arrange ourselves correctly. I'm interested. Let's talk about it again next week.
All right. Next week, Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, we will be here. Not sure what we'll talk about, but it'll probably be some aspect of the great transition that we're all going through in our time. See you next week, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Keep your heart wide open,
and love will reach your soul.
wide open. It'll save you on your way, wide open.
I know it's the only way.
Wide open.